Aman was an antisocial loser who had no friends and only found happiness in his Johnny Sin CDs. However, his whole life changes for the better when he saves the depressed girl next door with his Riz, and now she's in love with him, giving him the happiness he's been missing. They first meet when Oman is heading home from school and spots Sheena, who's just sitting there in the rain all depressed. He thinks of walking past, but then he sees her crying and figures he can't just leave her there. So he strolls over, pops his umbrella over her, hands her the umbrella, and tells her not to get sick. The next day at school, Oman's sneezing heavily due to the rain from the other day. Then Sheena strolls into class, and the entire room collectively loses it, swooning over her beauty like she's prime Megan Fox. Amina thinks about how the school's angel is amazing at everything she does while keeping a smile on her face, and concludes that it's impossible for an angel like her to be a depressed emo. He knows how every pathetic simps would love to date her, but unlike them, a Sigma Chad like him doesn't. Later that day, Ammon drags his half-dead self back home, and to his surprise, Sheena is there waiting for him with his umbrella. Sheena says she's just returning what's not hers and comments that he looks horrible. Amina tells her to mind her business, but Sheena claps back, saying that she has to care after he got sick trying to play knight in shining umbrella. He snatches the umbrella from her and tells her to let it go, but mid-talk he nearly collapses. Sheena catches him like a rom-com heroine and insists she owes him one. She steps into his disaster of an apartment and immediately tells him to change his clothes while she'll be back shortly. When Aman asks why she'd want to return to this dump, she simply says she wants to help him sleep better. Then she scampers off to her own room, leaving Aman still in disbelief at how she's living right next door. Later that night, he wakes up to find Sheena watching him. She informs him he's been passed out for 2 hours and asks if he's hungry, as she made rice porridge just for him. Aman is baffled to know that she's good at cooking too. She hands him a thermometer for him to check his own temperature, and when he lifts his shirt to check his, Sheena looks away in a flustered panic. Right there, Aman finally gets why every guy at school is sing for her cuteness. She comes back with the porridge and asks about his fever. He says it's nothing a few pills and sleep won't fix. But Sheena gives him an impromptu lesson in why health class matters. When she hands him the food, he just stares at it like a stupid donut. She teases him about needing to be spoon-fed, but he's more surprised she can cook. She shrugs and says it's basic survival when living solo, and suggests that he also needs to learn how to both cook food and clean his crusty-looking room. Aman compliments her food and she shrugs it off, saying that a one-armed dummy could make rice porridge. Then he brings up the elephant in the rain and asks why she was sulking in the rain like a tragic character, and suggests that it's because she got dumped by her 4 boyfriends. Sheena quickly clarifies that she has no boyfriend, and her morals are not loose so that she would clap different dudes. Omen jokes that she probably has suitors lining up, but that hits a nerve. She snaps that she's not a public toilet, and he catches the shift in her vibe and apologizes. She reveals that she was just trying to clear her head that day, and she apologizes too for getting him sick. He brushes it off saying he doesn't mind, and unlike other guys, he won't be trying to milk her guilt to get her to gobble his gizzy. It surprises Sheena to what that, and she acknowledges how tiring it is that the boys around her all have a desire for her. He also adds it's kind of refreshing to know angels have bad days, but out of annoyance, she asks him not to call her that. The next school day, Itsuki is glad to see Aman healthy again and tells him to pull himself together. As they're walking, Aman spots Sheena helping classmates with math, and Itsuki casually reminds him she's out of his league. That evening, Aman is sipping a pathetic jelly for dinner on his apartment's balcony, and when Sheena sees what he's eating, she scolds him for his poor food choices. She then goes inside telling him to wait in his room, and moments later comes back with real food that she has left over. He thanks her, makes another joke about angelic cuisine, and she once again tells him to quit it with the angel thing. Then while eating he thinks about how delicious it is. The next morning, he returns her dish, and she thanks him for actually washing it. But then, to his surprise, she gives him another plate of food. He protests at her gesture, but she insists she always makes too much. He gives in and thanks her, but warns that if she keeps doing this, he might catch feelings for her. She asks if that's the case, and he coldly tells her that he doesn't, and she slams the door in his face. From that point on, Sheena keeps giving a man her homemade cooking, and his diet miraculously improves, from what was once diarrhea-inducing junk food to now nourishing meals. At school, Aman asks Itsuki if he looks healthier, and is genuinely surprised when Itsuki says he's finally not resembling a corpse. One afternoon while shopping, Aman bumps into Sheena and tells her not to get the wrong idea as he's not stalking her. She rolls her eyes and tells him to get over himself as she knows that they're in the supermarket closest to where they both live. He notices how she's careful in using her budget, and compliments her in saving up the allowances her parents gave her. But to his confusion, She shows a tint of sadness when he says that. After shopping, Aman offers to help carry her bags. She resists, but he insists, saying she'd score more charm points by letting him. Then he walks ahead, saying they'd look awkward together anyway. Later, when she swings by his apartment to pick up the other day's container, she finds him mid-cleaning in his garbage pit of a room. When he admits he's got no clue what he's doing, Sheena jumps in with a crash course in adulting. Then, determined to wage war on the mess, they begin Operation Cleanup. At the start, they manage to clean the room smoothly. But partway through, Sheena slips and Aman catches her in a very convenient position. She scolds him for letting his apartment turn into a health hazard, which caused her to fall. He apologizes and they keep cleaning, but deep down Sheena feels her heart pounding. After they finish cleaning, feeling exhausted, Amina suggests they order pizza. It amazes her to see takeout pizza for the first time, and Sheena admits she's never had it as her family's too elite for takeout. As she digs in, she tells a man to stop staring and he fires back at her saying she has zero charms. However, he expresses how he likes this casual version of her more than the stiff perfect one from school. She says she's always been like this deep down. Aman tells her she can chill around him and she says she can't when his eyes are doing stuff to her. Before leaving, Aman asks why she keeps feeding him every day. She claims that she just likes preparing food for other people, and it makes her happy to know that a man is eating quality food instead of his usual junk food. She adds that unlike other dudes, Aman doesn't catch feelings towards her actions, which she enjoys. She goes to her room and Aman draws the conclusion that she holds no feelings for him. Some days later, Aman stumbles across Sheena parked on her lonesome and naturally asks what she's doing by herself. She casually throws out a nothing, but Aman is not buying it. His detective senses tingle when he sees her outfit covered in fur and injuries, and he asks her if she's been cuddling a tiger. Sheena confesses that she just climbed a tree to rescue a cat and failed. Ammon, playing the part of reluctant hero, tells her to hold still, and shows up moments later with a medkit like some sort of over-prepared Boy Scout. He orders her to take off her tights, and Sheena asks him if he's off his drugs to ask her that. So, he tosses her his jacket and clarifies that, no, this isn't a ploy. He just doesn't want her knee to swell like a balloon. While she hesitantly accepts, he turns away while she sorts herself out and appreciates that he doesn't try to peek. Then after wrapping her ankle with surprising finesse, she mutters that maybe he's not entirely useless. Aman accepts this backhanded compliment like it's the Nobel Peace Prize. He then hands her some oversized sweats and a hoodie, and when asked what for, he explains that it's for her to disguise her celebrity identity while he carries her back. Then as he carries her home, she apologizes for the hassle. And Aman just shrugs it off, saying that he's just that much of a gentleman, Chad. But once home, Aman quickly enters his room after Sheena thanked him, and Sheena realizes that she's still in his pants. The next day at school, Aman shows up in shorts, which earns him a raised eyebrow from Mitsuki. Aman tells him to shut it as he forgot his sweatpants. Meanwhile, the school's popular, handsome, Squidwardle-looking dude, Katawaki, is getting his usual prince treatment, and Omen, unimpressed, notes how the school's weirdly good at assigning nicknames like Angel and Prince. Just then, he locks eyes with Sheena across the field, and she hits him with a smile, which gets a man to look away. But the other dudes thought that she was smiling for them. Later at home, Sheena swings by to return his clothes and brings a peace offering in the form of food. Amina asks how she's holding up, and she says she's fine, but just not running any marathons soon. He teases her about lighting up the field with her angelic smile, to which she rolls her eyes and reminds him she loathes that nickname. Curious, she asks why the crowd practically fainted when she smiled. And Alman, ever the smooth talker, compliments her looks and pokes if she's into Katawaki. Sheena tells him that she has no interest in Katawaki, and fires back that if pretty faces were enough, Alman would be in love with her right now, which leaves Alman momentarily rebooting. It amuses him how she acknowledges that she's a baddie, and she simply brushes it off, saying that she knows it from how others treat her. Plus, she takes good care of herself. He checks the food and asks if she made it, and she tells him to microwave it. But Alman says he likes it fresh, hinting at wanting a cooking date. She asks if he's trying to get inside her apartment to get freaky, and he assures her he's not stupid. They strike a deal to split the bill and cook at his place instead, just so a man can get freshly made food. Aman checks if she'll feel safe being in his room, and she assures him that she will mash his eggs and pickle if he tries anything. She also adds that she's not his type. And when he asks her how she would know that, she comments that he would have been glazing her feet by now if that were the case, which isn't. When she arrives, Sheena sees the kitchen is squeaky clean, probably the only clean thing in his apartment, and tells him to stay out of the way, not wanting him to get in her way. While she cooks, Aman watches her and thinks that she looks like his wife. She snaps him out of it, asking if he's trying to see through her apron. He fires back that she's full of herself. Once the food is ready, Amina digs in like a man possessed and throws compliments at her cooking, calling it the best thing his mouth has tasted since his mother's milk. Afterward, he asks why she keeps feeding a guy she supposedly doesn't like. She shrugs, saying she enjoys it and that it's also good karma feeding the underprivileged bums. She offers to stop if it's weird, but Omen quickly tells her to continue. The next day, after surviving a brutal test, Itsuki whines that the exam was unfair. Amon jabs that it's what he gets for dating instead of studying. Itsuki claps back, saying Amon will be just as whipped once he falls for someone. Just then, Chitos, Itsuki's girlfriend, pops up and asks if Amon has a girlfriend, as she wants to befriend her. He jokingly says his imaginary one wouldn't approve of new friendships. Later, in Oman's place, Sheena thanks him for handling the dishes. When he asks what she's working on, she casually says she's grading herself. Amon asks her progress, and she humbly brags that she's already covered next year's curriculum. He asks if she even likes studying, and she says she doesn't have a choice. Amon admits he does it mostly to avoid parental drama. Before she leaves, she accidentally drops her ID and a man quickly returns it to her. But he sees that her birthday is in 4 days, and puts it in his mental note. While cooking later, he asks what she would want if he were to give her a gift. She pauses and says she would want a sharpening stone, which surprises him. Amon, mildly concerned, asks if she's normal, and Sheena just says he's lucky she's not like other girls. The next day, Amon enlists Itsuki's help for gift ideas, but everything sounds awful or impractical to him, so he decides to hold off with his idea. Eventually, they call in Chitos, who immediately becomes way too interested. She bombards Amon with questions about the girl, but he keeps brushing away her questions. She finally suggests a stuffed animal. Amon scoffs at the idea of buying a teddy bear like some rom-com lead, and Chitos calls him a coward. However, Amon sees that a stuffed animal is a good idea, but to avoid embarrassment, he begs her to help him buy it. She agrees to do so as long as he buys her crepes, which he gladly agrees to buy. Days later, it's Sheena's birthday, and Omen courageously hands her the gifts, wishing her a happy birthday. Feeling creeped out, she asks him how he knows it's her birthday, and he tells her how he accidentally saw it on her ID. She tells him that he should have just ignored it as she never celebrated her birthdays before. But after hearing that, he hands the gifts anyway, telling her to see them as his token of gratitude. Then she opens the first gift in the form of a hand cream, and he explains that since she actively uses her hands all day, he thought she would need it, and she thanks him for it. However, she finds another gift in the bag in the form of a teddy bear, and out of embarrassment, he tells her that she could just throw it away if she doesn't like it. But she assures him that she will cherish the teddy bear forever. In that moment, his eyes linger on her hugging the bear, and he quickly pulls himself back, not wanting to catch feelings. Suddenly, she tells him how she never got presents like that before, as she never told anyone about her birthdays. She expresses how she was always nervous to receive gifts from strangers. And when Alman asks her about his gifts, she tells him that he's not a stranger to her. Suddenly, he gets the urge to pat her head, but quickly puts his urges to bed, realizing he almost folded. Some days later, Amon's door swings open to reveal the last boss of his peace and quiet, his mother, Shioko. She greets him with a smile and says he looks better than she remembered. Amon, in classic fashion, gives her a half-hearted thanks and politely tells her to scram. Naturally, she ignores that and insists he at least pretend he's happy to see her, especially after she came all that way. With a sigh, Amon repeats the thanks a little less deadpan this time and tells her again to leave. Undeterred, Shoko tries to waltz right into his apartment, only for Amon to become the human barricade. That is until she reminds him whose money is footing the rent. Checkmate and the blockade collapse, and Shoko struts in like she's on a mission. Amon grumbles about visitor etiquette while she pokes around, clearly enjoying catching him off guard. She comments on how clean his room is and how great his skin looks, and a man flashes back to minutes before where he had to stuff Sheena into his bedroom to avoid meeting his mother. However, Shoko spots the signs from 2 sets of dishes, maybe a whiff of perfume, and accuses him of cooking for 2. Amina plays it cool, muttering something about a friend. But when Shioko tries to peek into the bedroom, he jumps to block her again. He claims he refuses to let her see his Mia Khalifa DVDs. But Shioko isn't buying it. She barges in, and to her surprise, there's Sheena sleeping like the plot twist she is. Shoko lights up and declares he's got fine taste in girls. Amon denies everything, claiming there's nothing going on. But Shioko hits him with the classic. Girls would never enter a boy's room if she doesn't like him. As he panics and tries to set the record straight, Sheena wakes up without missing a beat. Shoko wastes no time introducing herself to her mother-in-law, and Omen tries to protest, but nope, Shioko's in charge now. Embarrassed, Amon watches as Sheena tries to explain their relationship, citing Amon's addiction to fast food. But Shioko is already planning all the way to their wedding and their babies. When Shoko finds out Sheena lives next door, she calls it fate, and says her little boy is locked into the perfect woman. She adds that Omen is still a virgin, suggesting that Sheena take the lead. Amon, absolutely done, demands that she leave. Shoko offers a fake apology for crashing their romantic evening, and before leaving, she gets Sheena's contact numbers before finally taking her exit. Alone at last, Amon apologizes for the circus act that is his mom. But Sheena says he's lucky to have someone who cares enough to cause chaos. This hits Amina a bit, especially when Sheena admits no one even calls her by her first name, not even her own parents. They agree to use each other's first names, but only in private. When she tries to give back the key he handed her in panic mode earlier, Amon tells her to keep it because he trusts her. Sheena warns him he's basically opening the door for dramatic anime-style romance scenarios, but Amon takes that challenge gracefully. The next day, to no one's surprise, Sheena tops the test rankings. Amon overhears the girls calling her built different, but knowing her true self, Amon internally disagrees, deeming Sheena a hard worker who works twice as hard as the rest of them. Later, Sheena finds a random cake in Amon's fridge and asks if he's secretly into sweets. He shrugs and says it's for celebrating her top score. She downplays it, but he says she's too humble for her own good. When she serves the cake, Amon stares not at the cake, but at her, who is sweeter than the cake. She misreads it and offers him a bite. He admits he was watching her, not the cake. Still, she forces him to eat. Then he returns the favor by feeding her back and asks how it feels to be spoon-fed. She says it's unbearable, and he warns her that spoon-feeding people food like that could give them ideas. Sometime later, Amon decides to cook for himself on a solo mission. Unfortunately, all he can think about is how much better Sheena's food tastes. When he tells her his plan, she offers help with the kind of faith people have in expired coupons. He explains his masterpiece dish and begins his culinary showdown. When the dishes are done, they end up looking like dog water, and he nervously offers her a bite. She tries it and basically tells him it tastes like the crushed dreams of Onluffen's girls who failed to make it big. Still, she appreciates the effort and offers him to taste her version of the same dish. She expresses how it's good for him to learn how to cook, and asks what happens when he finally learns to cook. Amon grins and says he hopes he never learns because that way she'll always have a reason to come over. Hearing that makes Sheena's heart beat faster, and she tells him that she will slowly teach her. Weeks later, Itsuki and Chitos want to host a Christmas Eve hangout at Amon's place. Amon shuts it down and Chitos asks if his imaginary girlfriend has other plans. He retorts that he's still single, but Chitos calls him out about the stuffed animal gift he got, and he simply tells them he got the gift for his neighbor who has been helping around his place. After some bullying and begging, he agrees to host, but they got to leave before dark. Later, Amon asks Sheena if she has any plans with her friends for Christmas Eve. She says most of her girlfriends have boyfriends, and she's turned down a dozen invites from desperate Sims. When Amon tells her his Christmas Eve is booked with his Chaos friends, she says she'll stay in her room alone, as she always does. He notices how sad and lonely she looks. So, he offers to spend Christmas Day with him instead, and she agrees on the condition he teaches her to play his video games, which is something she's always been interested in. Christmas Eve rolls around and the party's on. Itsuki says Omen's place looks way less tragic than last time, and Chitos notes there's now a feminine touch to it, which sends Oman into crisis mode. When he tries to shut down their flirting, Itsuki tells him to get a life. Then Chitos casually mentions how Sheena rejected every guy this Christmas, because she had plans with someone, which makes Almond feel suspicious. Just then, the snow starts falling and the couple rushes to the balcony to look closer. But to their shock, they find Sheena there alone, quiet and beautiful under the snow next door. Later on, the crew gathers at Amon's place where Sheena quickly offers an apology for blowing their cover. Omen, being the resident stoic with a soft spot, tells her to cool it as it wasn't her fault anyway. To satisfy everyone's curiosity, Sheena breaks down their living arrangement and claims she's just trying to keep Amon from self-destructing like a malfunctioning toaster. Then Itsuki, never missing a chance to stir the pot, asks if Amon actually has feelings for Sheena, or if wedding bells are in the air. Both immediately shoot that idea down, saying it's more likely for a pig to fly. Right on cue, Itsuki asks if the teddy bear he spotted is for Sheena. 2. Amon tells him to shut up before he gets drop-kicked. He then gives his two besties a lecture about keeping their yaps shut. Chitos assures him that nobody would ever believe a top-tier babe like Sheena would simp for a bum like Oman. Just then, Chitos finally gets a proper look at Sheena and practically short-circuits. She's stunned, swooning, and leans in like she's about to kiss her. But Oman leaps into action and blocks the move, telling her not to overcrowd Sheena, who's quite shy. Chitos apologizes, saying she was momentarily overwhelmed by Sheena's divine-level beauty. She then sticks out her hand and officially introduces herself and Itsuki, while Sheena smiles politely, trying to play it cool. Itsuki turns to Sheena and declares that he's Amon's best friend and the designated punch-in-the-face officer if Amon ever steps out of line. Sheena laughs and says that besides his tragic housekeeping, Amon is actually kind of a chill guy. Cheetos chimes in saying she likes cooking too, but she and recipes don't get along. After they leave, Amon apologizes for Cheetos and advises Sheena to give her a light slap if she ever goes turbo again. They chat about the beautiful snow they get to witness, exchange a few jokes, and Sheena heads off to grab some of her stew. While she's gone, Amon slips into reflective mode, thinking about how wild the evening has been. Over dinner, Sheena watches him eat and says he looks genuinely happy with the food in front of him. Amon grins and says her cooking is so good it could make a grown man cry. As he does the dishes, he asks how she learned to cook. Sheena explains that someone once told her the fastest way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Amon compliments whoever taught her how to cook, and she expresses how unlike the person who taught her, she is still unable to touch her level. But Amon tells her that her cooking brings him joy, which makes her fold. He then asks about their plan for Christmas, and Sheena casually reminds him of their video game date. The next day rolls around and the gaming session begins where she's trash at it. While showing her some moves, Amon accidentally gets too close. He apologizes immediately, and Sheena says it's fine as they're not strangers anymore. Eventually, Sheena starts getting into the game, having a blast while Amon enjoys how cute she is. Then suddenly she trips and lands right on his poor innocent lap. Amon's soul briefly leaves his body while he debates whether to cry or laugh. Sheena gasps and apologizes like she's committed a war crime, but Amon smiles and says she looks adorable. She starts beating him while flustered beyond belief. Later, Sheena wins a match and Omen cheers like she just unlocked a secret level. He hands her a gift as a reward. Sheena tells him to calm down with all the presents, but Omen insists she pretend it's from Santa Claus. When she opens it, she finds a key case since she's been holding on to his keys. Sheena is impressed and tells him he's more stylish than she expected. Then she hits him with a plot twist that Shoko sent her an old picture of Alman. Amon realizes they must have swapped contacts the day Shoko came over. He tries to downplay it, but Sheena moves his bangs aside and calls him handsome. He blushes, then returns the favor, brushing her hair away as they both quietly let the tension build. A moment later, Sheena surprises him with a gift of her own, a new arm muffler. Suddenly, Amon's confidence meter overflows and he rises her up, complimenting how much brighter her smile has become, which he likes a lot. Sheena, flustered, tells him to shut up so she can breathe. She bolts out of the room redder than a tomato. Amina follows, worried she'll catch a cold. Sheena turns around and says he's the one who needs to worry about catching colds. Before heading off to bed, Amon thanks her for adding so much color to his life, and Sheena thanks him right back. The next morning, Amon notices her face is still red. He asks if she's okay, and Sheena claims she is. He's not buying it, so he checks her temperature himself, confirms her fever. He says it's time to rest and scoops her up to carry her home, but Sheena stops him at her door, saying boys aren't allowed inside. Amon casually offers up his apartment for her to sleep in, and after some bickering, she agrees. Back at his place, she eats, takes her meds, and thanks him for taking care of her. Amon says she's done the same for him and asks why she's always pushing herself so hard. Sheena tells him he's never been a burden. As Amon starts to leave, she grabs his hand and softly tells him goodnight. He holds her hand back, and when she gets flustered, he says he's just trying to help her sleep. The next morning, he checks in again. Sheena says she's mostly okay, and Amon offers to make porridge. After she eats, they sit together, and she admits no one's ever taken care of her like this. She apologizes for being a burden again, and Elman immediately shuts that down, saying he can't stand seeing her in pain. He holds her hand again to help her sleep, quietly wondering how things could have gone if they weren't trying so hard to play it cool. It's New Year's and Omen and Sheena are spending it together, getting all sentimental about continuing whatever thing they've got going on into the new year. Eventually, they both check their phones. Amon's got texts from Itsuki and Shoko basically teasing him about his cozy time with Sheena. Then his dad messages asking if they can drop by in a few days. Amon gives the okay, but when he turns to tell Sheena, she's out cold on his shoulder. He tries waking her, but she just melts into his arms and he realizes how tired she is from all the cooking she did for New Year's. He tries waking her up again, but she ends up falling closer to him, and he can't help but admire how good she smells. Amon thinks hard about what to do then, and after briefly debating his options, he decides the gentleman's move is to tuck her into bed. While admitting how beautiful she looks, he gives her cheek a soft rub before whispering her goodnight. The next morning, Sheena is still asleep, and finds himself admiring how cute she looks while snoozing. He gently brushes her face, which to his surprise wakes her up a little bit, and she starts enjoying how soft his hands are. Then she wakes up startled, but Amina quickly assures her he didn't do anything scandalous, and jokes she should be thanking him for not doing the freaky like he's Diddy. Sheena fires back, asking if rubbing cheeks is something he likes to do, and she reveals that she was awake the whole time he tucked her in. Ammon groans, telling her not to mess with him like that, as it's dangerous for a guy with hormones. Then he asks, half joking, if she wants him to make a move, and Sheena blushes hard and hides her face. Soon after, Amon's parents drop by. He greets his dad, Chidao, like a civilized human, but pretends his mom, Shioko, is invisible. When she calls him out on it, he snaps back that respect is a two-way street. Then he notices a suspicious-looking box, and Shioko says it's just some stuff they brought over. She barges in to greet Sheena, and Shudo isn't far behind. He introduces himself, thanking Sheena for looking after Oman, and Sheena graciously says it's mutual. Then Shoko, queen of backhanded compliments, calls Aman a useless bum, but Sheena defends him, saying that Aman has been quite considerate of her. Shadow feels happy that they get along and advises Sheena not to go easy on Oman if he steps out of line. Sheena serves them tea, earning praises for her manners. Shoko, though, can't resist teasing, saying it's nice to see Alman with a pretty girl. Shadow tells her to cut it out, but mentions how her doting attitude is why he fell for her, which somehow makes her blush. Then Shoko brings up the New Year's shrine visit. When they admit they haven't gone yet, she reveals she bought a kimono for Sheena and insists they all go together. Ammon protests, worried they might run into classmates. Shoko shrugs it off, simply telling him not to get caught. Before heading out, Aman checks his outfit in the mirror, earning a compliment from his dad. Shudo asks him if he's happy to move there, and compared to his dark past, Aman feels way happier. Then Sheena walks out in the kimono and Aman short-circuits. He's speechless until his mom reminds him that his mouth still works. He fumbles out a compliment and Sheena appreciates it. Later, when they're alone, he admits she looks amazing. Sheena, clearly flustered, returns the favor and whispers him a compliment, telling him he looks handsome, which folds him. At the shrine, Aman asks Sheena if she's okay, and she says she feels awkward in the kimono. Among the crowds, she nearly falls, but Aman catches her and decides to hold her hand for the rest of the walk. After praying, Aman teases her for praying too long. She says she wishes for more peaceful days like this one, and Oman mutters that peace and her mother don't coexist. They grab some bean soup and Aman asks if he can taste hers. When she hesitates, he assumes she doesn't want to share, but she swaps the cups so he can have a taste of hers. Then she reminds him how awkward it felt the last time they fed each other. Ammon just realizes how it's an indirect kiss and apologizes for treating her the same way as his buddies with whom he usually trades saliva with after hearing that Sheena is not amused and drinks from his glass as she considers him her friend too. Later, Ammon apologizes for tiring her for the day, but Sheena says she had fun and felt genuinely happy, which was something she hadn't felt in some time. Seeing how cute she is, he gives her a head rub, and she accuses him of trying to mess up her hair. When he asks if she doesn't like it, she just tells him to warn her next time. Then she grills him, saying that he shouldn't rub girls' heads like that, but he rises her up, saying that she's the only girl he's doing that with. It instantly hits Sheena like a truck, and she runs back to her apartment, takes a peek back at him, and calls him a dummy through the door. The next day, Amon's parents leave to go back home. They tell him they're looking forward to the day Alman brings Sheena back home for real. Shadow even tells Sheena he hopes she stays friends with Alman, and she responds that she's lucky to know him. Later on, Amina tells her not to butter him up to appease his parents, but Sheena insists she meant everything she said about him, as she genuinely sees him as a good and handsome guy. Then she heads off to make lunch like nothing happened. At school the next day, rumors are flying about Sheena visiting the shrine with a mysterious hot guy. The girls speculate about who this secret Chad boyfriend could be. Aman and Itsuki overhear, and Itsuki tries to console Aman, but he doesn't want to hear anything from him. Eventually, Aman and Sheena talk about the gossip. Sheena says it's better if no one knows it was he. Sheena says it's best to wait till the storm blows over, and Aman sides, saying an ugly bum like him couldn't be her boyfriend. Anyway, after hearing that, Sheena snaps, saying that she genuinely believes he is a decent person who should be more confident in himself. Amina thanks her compliment and goes off to do the dishes while Sheena smothers her embarrassment under a pillow. Days later, Chidito swings by Aman's place, looking suspiciously thoughtful. She announces she needs his wise counsel because Valentine's Day is almost here. Aman, ever the killjoy, reminds her that responsible students should be more concerned about exams. But one glance at Sheena, and she knows that deep down, Amina has a soft side. She finally confesses her big dilemma that she wants to give Itsuki chocolates and it has to be special. Aman immediately volunteers Sheena as the superior choice for anything remotely girly. Cheetos, disappointed, says she thought he'd have better ideas being a guy and all. Amon insists he's a full-fledged man. Cheetos fires back that full-fledged men usually make moves when alone with a girl, instantly flustering both Almond and Sheena. Amon insists he can't just randomly make moves, seeing as they're not even a couple. As they sip tea to cool the mood, Cheetos casually drops that she's giving a man some chocolates too. She even asks what kind he likes, and he, being a cranky old soul, says he doesn't care much for sweet things. Then she turns to Sheena and asks if she's giving anyone chocolates. Sheena replies she's only giving them to the girls in class because giving one to a guy would be asking for social chaos. Come Valentine's Day, while the others starve, Katawaki is practically drowning in a chocolate avalanche from every girl within a 5-mile radius. The other guys just watch, debating whether they should jump him or steal his chocolates. Itsuki and Amon, meanwhile, sit back like seasoned observers. Amon mumbles that he's not expecting chocolates anyway, and Itsuki warns him to brace for impact as Cheetos has prepared something for him as well. Amon's eyes narrow, asking what she put in them. Itsuki proceeds to list a suspiciously unholy combo of ingredients, and Amon wonders aloud if Cheetos is trying to poison him. Then Itsuki brings up Sheena and whether Amon thinks she'll give him anything, but he casually tells him that he's clueless. Then Cheetos delivers the box to Amon with a wink and a vague warning. Itsuki gives a dramatic good luck and leaves him to his fate. Before heading out, Amon talks to Katawaki and hands his shopping bag to him, who needs it to haul his chocolate hoard. Later, Amon is quietly tearing up over Cheetos' experimental chocolates. Sheena, watching this meltdown, gives him a quick chocolate-based palate cleanser like the culinary goddess she is, and tells him it's like hot chocolate. Amina drinks it and immediately feels human again, praising her for how tasty it is. Curious, he asks if she made it because it's Valentine's Day. She awkwardly nods while being extremely flustered, then suddenly bolts to her apartment, leaving him dazed and wondering if he said something dumb again. When he goes to chase after her, he finds a little gift bag and a handwritten thank you note waiting for him. Inside he finds chocolates, the good kind, not too sweet kind, and he realizes that she listened to when he told Cheetos he preferred his chocolates not too sweet. The next day at school, Katawaki thanks Amon for the shopping bag while some girls look on trying to figure out what Prince Charming wants with the mysterious nobody. Itsuki, ever curious, asks what that was about. Amon explains and Itsuki immediately clowns him for carrying a shopping bag like someone's grandma. And Omen claims Sheena's influence is to blame. Then Itsuki teases that Amon basically has a live-in wife now and Oman denies it aggressively. The topic shifts to Cheetos, and Itsuki reveals his dad wasn't too thrilled about him planning to marry her someday. Still, he's determined to win him over. They wish each other luck, though Omen insists he's got nothing going on romantically. Back home, Amon finds Sheena waiting in his apartment, and thanks her again for the chocolates. He asks if she wants anything in return. She says no, but Amon insists he has to do something to repay her kindness. He promises to think of something, but warns her not to expect fireworks. Sheena responds sweetly that she treasures anything he gives her, just like how she treasured the teddy bear he gave her. Then she asks when his birthday is, and he informs her that it's in November. It annoys her that he didn't tell her when it is, and he simply reminds her that they weren't as close back then as they are now. She demands they celebrate his next one together, which makes Omen raise an eyebrow, realizing that she just asked him to continue being with her for another year, and Sheena immediately blushes like she just proposed. Sometime later, Amon browses a gift shop to find a gift for Shaw, but he ends up getting stuck. He ends up asking the clerk for help finding a present for a close friend he's totally not dating. Back home, Sheena is shocked seeing how well-dressed Almond looks, and she can't help but still glances at his handsome face. He tries to return himself to look like usual, but she insists that despite her getting distracted, she likes his new cooler look. Amon awkwardly declares that it's White Day, and he tries to play it cool, but then hands her a small gift. She opens it to find a flower bracelet and 2 Oman favor coupons. She immediately redeems one by asking him to put the bracelet on her, which he accepts. As he does, she thanks him graciously, and he can't help but momentarily get lost in her eyes. Later, he tells Itsuki what happened, and Itsuki practically throws confetti, congratulating him for finally acting like a man.